Welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up for the week of 15 March 2020. More quarantines. It's the 20th episode of the 20th day of the 20th year of the 21st century. Sorry, couldn't get all of them in there. But if you add all those together, you get 81, which is the square of 9, which is the square of 3. So that means the winning number should be 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. I don't know. Pornhub has Italian singing from the balconies. The Senate renews surveillance rules, Drobo hacks, Google Cloud bug bounties, all the show wrap-ups, and of course, COVID-19, our old friend. All this and more on the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. Make sure your team is prepared to fight off the latest cybersecurity threat. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team skills up to date. You can stream IT Pro TV courses live and on demand, so there's no need to send staff to off-site training. Team subscriptions include Pro Portal, so managers have full control over your team's training schedule. Go to itpro.tv/hack-naked and use the code HN30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership. As technology continues to evolve and expand, so have the countless ways our critical systems can be put in jeopardy. Ransomware attacks, misconfiguration, user error, and malicious threat actors, to name a few. As IT infrastructures continue to grow and diversify, how do you ensure stable security? Core Security, a help systems company, provides an analytics-driven, layered approach to security with a portfolio that enables both proactive and reactive responses. With Core Security, you can reduce risk by limiting access, detect upcoming and active threats, test for security weaknesses, and efficiently monitor data for actionable insights. To learn more, visit securityweekly.com/core security.
I'm Doug White from Roger Williams University in the quarantine bunker. I'm your host, and welcome to the Security Weekly News Wrap-Up Show. Let's wrap up all the show topics from this week. We're still doing plenty of content here at Security Weekly, so while you're sitting around, it's a good time to catch up. On Application Security Weekly number 100, Mike and John had an interview with Clint Gibler, the research director at NCC Group, and the discussion was about scaling security and how to address the issue of security teams being outnumbered 100 to 1 in a lot of companies. I thought that was a pretty interesting topic, and certainly being involved in security teams, I see just what that crazy ratio really is. On Business Security Weekly number 166, Matt and Paul talked with Steve Black, a visiting professor of cyber law, a new field. They were talking about some compliance issues like, do data compliance regulations apply to Las Vegas hospitals who have California patients? Intangible data, Steve's InfoSec World 2020 sessions, which was about the cyber law year in review. All those are very interesting topics. That transborder data stuff has been really an issue for a long, long time. Transborder law is a big issue, but now we're starting to see people writing localized laws that are trying to apply to people across sovereignty, across nation-state boundaries, you name it. So a very, very current topic there. On Enterprise Security Weekly number 176, Matt and Paul put up more of their RSA recorded interviews back in the days when we could actually meet people in person. SaltStack with Mehul Revankar talked about open source and commercial solutions for configuration, patch, and vulnerability management. Synopsys, Utsav Sangani talked about the latest effort to enable developers in ensuring that software security is accounted for in their work without negatively impacting their velocity. Interesting word. In the second set of interviews that they aired, Acunetics' Mark Rawls discussed web security challenges in small and medium enterprises and how automation can help fill the skills gap. And NetSparker's Kevin Gallagher discussed how to scale web application security, including asset discovery, application scanning, prioritization of results, and more. So some great interviews that were recorded at RSA, which was one of the now last cons that actually occurred. Who knows how many more there will actually be this year. On Security Weekly News number 19, Jason Wood's expert commentary covered phishing scams, which are exploiting misinformation about the COVID-19 coronavirus, a big topic right now for your friends and family. Be sure and advise them that scammers are working like crazy to try and exploit people's fears and exploit the information about coronavirus. I've gotten numerous calls from people saying, do you think this is a real contact? People are getting calls saying that if you want to ensure your medical coverage is in place, you need to talk to them right now, on and on and on. So, you may want to just reach out on Twitter, on Facebook, or whatever to your friends and family and remind them about these kind of scams, because they're really, really prevalent at the moment, among the many other scams. On Security and Compliance Weekly number 21, Jeff, Matt, Josh, and Scott interviewed Matt Allen from Viavi about compliance requirements and SecOps frameworks like NIST, as opposed to more holistic views evaluating compliance. I thought it was a very interesting interview in two parts to talk about some of the issues around frameworks turning into just ticking boxes off instead of actually discussing and or developing real security. Seen that over and over again in different industries where people really want to just check a box as we have this, but they don't really even understand what they're doing. I saw that all the time as an auditor. They were like, I've literally been asked so many times, just tell me, tick the box. What do I need to do to tick this box? And they didn't really want to hear about it. So that's a really cool discussion there. And finally, on Paul's Security Weekly last night, number 644, Paul, Larry, Jeff, Tyler, and Lee interviewed Corey Thuen, the founder of GrabWell. He's always a great guest. They were talking about how to manage logs in the cloud and even talked a little bit about Windows event logs. And GrabWell has an upcoming, event, a webcast with us next week. I did put up links on some of my sites about that. If you want to link to that GrabWell so you can register to hear more about this, let us all know and we'll get you that link. In the tech segment, Peter Smith from Edgewise talked about working from home securely, something we could all use a refresher on as we all are now all working from home. Even I've occasionally moved a file from one location to another inappropriately. Everyone shall remain nameless in that. But in particular, controls around administrative tools. As you've got people working from home who need PowerShell access, who need to be able to cross-site access, definitely worth a listen on that show for that. And that was all of our content this week. Check some of that out if you're at home with nothing better to do. And actually, it's a lot better than that. But you should definitely take some time to keep up with the security news, because security goes on regardless. And with that, the news. My favorite thread of the week is home security for workers. COVID-19 has basically shut down the world and shut down everyone into their own personal space. Some of us have our own little studios here, 2 meters away from everyone, basically, except cats. And the cats are going to go wherever they want to go. So it's a good thing. Cats do not carry COVID-19. So even though they're getting closer to you. As we send all of our corporate employees, small biz employees, students, professors, and pretty much everyone home, the general guidance from on high that I keep seeing has basically been, we'll go online. And that sounds pretty obvious in this day and age, but almost everyone who's working has access to material that may range from for office use only, the ubiquitous FOUO, to the combination lock on Edward Snowden's bike, FERPA, GDRP, something. One of these acts probably applies to you in some way, or just corporate guidelines that say you can't distribute this, you can't move this from this laptop to that platform, no matter how convenient it might be. All of these make for interesting times for all of our employees, and everyone is now working from home. When old Mr. Cat jumped up on my laptop and somehow managed to send a weird message to my boss while he was asleep, it looked like an encrypted string. My boss thought it was an encrypted string and started sending me all these emails about what was I sending and how do you decrypt it and how do I read it. And I was like, relax, hang on. It was kind of funny. But don't leave that red button sitting on your kitchen table and accidentally fire off all those Patriot missiles you bought on deep discount at Raytheon, the closeout sale. I think all of us security geek types are going to have our hands full for the next few months while the online workforce goes from 0 to 90% of the workforce in and around all the other chaos which is going on, including trying to plug all the mutants in the wasteland to try and get a roll of toilet paper out of the crashed alien ship that you heard about on whatever conspiracy site that you heard about. Not to mention all the phishers, scammers, et cetera, who are really, really working hard to take advantage of all the craziness and all the people who are now online who maybe had never been online in their life. So support your local businesses, wash your hands, stay 2 meters away from me, thank you, and stay out of crowds. All of those are good advice, but we are seeing a lot of mandate stuff on that. On Pulse Security Weekly, they've dedicated quite a bit of time to talking about COVID-19 and how the hacking community could and most likely would work to help where they can. From 3D printed masks to homemade respirators, it's definitely a place where a lot of us can help. I don't know if I could build a homemade respirator, but I don't know, maybe. I got a soldering kit over there. Do what you can, even if it's just being nice to someone. I let someone out in front of me at an intersection yesterday, which is the New York equivalent to being like Gandhi, I guess. SANS released a security awareness work from home deployment kit to help guide the training of employees to actually work at home safely and securely. As I said earlier, we often take our knowledge of tech for granted. But when you send home an English professor, sorry, English professors, and I know not all of you are in that case, but all these people have access to tons of information, and I know that a lot of shortcuts have been taken to try to provide for people to work from home in a very short period of time. I know at my university, my particular department, cybersecurity, we already had everything online, but a lot of other departments were sent home with a week's notice and told, hey, be online. So think about where your users are and where the threats are. This is a useful guide that you can check out from SANS. Paul put up a Drobo remote command injection last night on the show that I thought was quite cool. And there was a whole bunch of discussion about how to use that command to recover from a Drobo array error. That was a really cool solution to the problem. If you've ever had that or you just want to check out an interesting combination of troubleshooting, hacking, and solving a problem with Drobo RAID arrays, I thought that was really fun, and it was quite interesting. Having had lots of RAID problems in my history that I had to fix through all kinds of cobbled together solutions, that was a pretty interesting one. A Google Cloud Platform bug bounty of $100,000 was paid to Wouter de Mat, who's a Dutch researcher, if the name didn't tip you off. This was really interesting. The Google Cloud Shell, a Linux-based instance for Dockers, et cetera, all kinds of container stuff there, was used. He was able to determine that he was trapped inside a Docker container, that was a quote, based on the process list. Smart move. He escaped the container and accessed the full host doing this. Basically what he did was he used the host Docker socket. So he saw two sockets in the process list. One was this sort of Docker container socket, and the other was the actual Docker socket itself, which is a gateway back into the full host. He then used that root access through the socket to manipulate Kubernetes to flip all the container privileges on the whole host. Definitely worth a read if you're interested in Docker, container, Kubernetes, and or bug bounties, or maybe making $100,000 off Google, which sounds like a pretty good idea to me. On the other side of that, a defense contractor paid $500,000 in ransom. The California Communications and Power Industry, they're a subcontractor of a defense contractor, but they do make radar software, electronic warfare tech, all kinds of things. Basically, someone clicked the link and ransomware spread across all of their offices. This is certainly nothing new, but we definitely have to do a better job on this, especially considering that ransomware is rapidly moving towards scenarios where you almost have to pay. Basically, this was another case where the ransomware started threatening to release their data. So in the old days, it just encrypted, in the old days, of course, being last year, it was just encrypting your drives. Today, basically, they're embedding the keys in the files so that they can decrypt those files with a script, obviously, and dump your whole data set out onto the internet unless you comply. So a little bit of encouragement poking at people there. Nephilim is the latest example of this tactic that I found. It was based on NIMT, again, another older ransomware. This group running Nephilim now threatens to release your data in 7 days. So if you don't pay up, Nephilim uses AES 128 and then encrypts the key using RSA 2048. So it's going to be tough to break that. Each file, but it includes that encrypted key, though, so the files can just be trickled out or dumped all online as they wish if you don't pay up. And, of course, the ransom notes that you get with all these pieces of software basically tell you we're going to start putting your information out there unless you pay up. On top of that, malware seems to really be targeting more mobile devices, particularly Android, which has a more open framework than Apple devices. Two stories this week focused on COVID lock and a stalkerware product tool called Monitor Mirror. COVID lock is basically an Android ransomware that takes advantage of the COVID-19 scare pandemic. Tells you that this is an app that will help you track COVID-19 cases in your area, and then when you install it, it ransomwares your phone. Monitor Mirror is more sophisticated than that and basically gets embedded in your phone and starts capturing, I don't want to say keystrokes in quotes. It can actually capture your Gmail conversation, your Instagram conversations, pretty much anything running on your phone that's exchanging information. And it can also capture your pattern lock. If you have an Android phone, you know, the little pattern lock. Apple's never used that. They chose to go with the facial recognition. But the Android phone has pattern locking, and it can capture all that and then use that information to take over your phone, lock you out of your phone, and or just capture all your information as you're exchanging it with other people. Not to mention that, there was also a story this week in SIM hijacking. Typically, SIM hijacks are social engineering kind of attacks, and it involves capturing the SIM information off the card and then contacting the provider to get them to turn that card information over to the person who's calling in. And that's the social engineering aspect of it. There's not an automated way to do that, I don't think. But this particular story was about hijacks targeting phones and the crypto wallets on the phone. So obviously the real target of all this is to get money. Basically what happened on that was the crypto wallet, this guy in the story had $1 million stored in different cryptocurrencies. So this was his life saving on the phone, and he basically got his SIM card hijacked. The attacker then social engineered AT&T and got control of the phone number. And of course, by getting control of the phone number, they could then get the crypto wallets and extract all the money from that. The article on the wiki actually does have a report on a bunch of different mobile providers and what they do to try to prevent this from occurring. Certainly AT&T is not the only target of these kind of attacks. So you may want to be careful about placing too much trust in your mobile device for identification purposes, because social engineering can always go around all that type of security. And there was a report also this week that said that due to these increases in targeting of mobile devices, the mobile anti-malware market, alliteration, is really going to be a boomtown in the near future. I personally think, based on the number of mobile devices that are out there and the number of articles we're seeing about attacks on these mobile devices, this is a very likely scenario that this is going to be a big booming market in the near future. Some D-bags tried to run a DDoS on the HHS this week in the how many acronyms can you use in one sentence kind of thing. Apparently on Sunday, unusual activity on the HHS, which is Health and Human Services. So really, guys, come on. but they began to develop some unusual activity, and an analysis resulted in this appearing to be a distributed denial of service attempt. As DDoS is kind of hard to orchestrate these days on any kind of significant target, the attack did fail, but it just goes to show you the depths to which people will sink. Really, I mean, in all this pandemic stuff and like, let's go attack a hospital or something, but we all know that that's true. The United States Senate, in a controversial move, voted to renew 9/11 surveillance powers and delayed changes to the controversial rules for 75 days. These particular rules were 3 provisions which allow federal agents to track, get warrants, wiretap, and even surveil subjects who are not associated with international terrorism. These rules were criticized as ways around the Fourth Amendment by the ACLU. Despite criticism from the ACLU and others, the Senate just went ahead and reapproved them, at least for a while. So I know people are on different sides of the issue, and it's a complicated issue about privacy in the United States. That did lead to a story about concerns over COVID-19 enhanced surveillance. China, South Korea, and Israel are all using very personalized location data to track the spread of COVID-19. And this particular story talked about concerns that 9/11-like actions may result from COVID-19 pandemics, which further erode privacy protections of the Fourth Amendment variety and result in temporary emergency changes, which, like these Senate rules, persist even 19, almost 20 years after 9/11 actually, it'd be 19 years this fall, after 9/11 actually occurred. A lot of these rules are still in place. So different sides of that issue. And finally, online gaming feels the stress of large numbers of users getting on to play while trapped at home. Students, professors, and even people with real jobs are all at home, and nothing says telecommute like a legendary Fortnite session. All the major platforms for gaming have been experiencing outage, slowdowns, stutters, borking, all these different terms that people use to describe things going on with their online gaming platform. But as everyone migrates home from the office, people are finding ways to entertain themselves that may involve gaming platforms, which has resulted in maybe them not being ready for the influx of people using it. And the real reason Italians were singing on the balcony, even Pornhub got in on the excitement and provided free premium access in Italy, or the VPNs that terminate in Italy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. As far as I know, though, Pornhub has been keeping up with the demand, asking for a friend. That's a news wrap up for the week of 15 March 2020 in the time of plague. I'm Doug White from Roger Williams University. We'll see you next week with more shows, more content, and more security news.